Welcome to On the Edge with April Mahoney Brains. Here, this is the spot where the conversations are pointed, the guests are sharp, and the responses are never dull. Did you bring your thinking caps? Because it's time to put them on. Because the conversation starts now. Welcome to On the Edge with April Mahoney Brains right here. This is the address. This is the spot where the conversation is appointed, the guests are sharp, and the responses are never dull. Today, we have Ushmi one more time,
Dosaja with a D.
Dosaja.
There we go. Yeah.
Ushmi Dosaja. Right? I'm trying to work on it now. Y'all know I grew up dyslexic, so I be trying to hear it and repeat it, but that does not mitigate the heart and the compassion that I feel for each one of my guests as they step onto the platform here. She and I have a great synergy. We are both poets, and she is a published author. We're going to talk a little bit about that. And also, she's a coach. What does that word coach mean? It's a big $25 word. You know, is that person there to support you, push you along, or boss you and try to change you? What does coaching look like in today's environment? So let's welcome her to the edge. Ushmi, hello and welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Well, I'm so glad to have you. We're both up pretty early. Well, no, it's not early for me. It's afternoon for you. Where are you located? You're in Europe, right?
That's right. Yeah, I'm just outside Berlin in Germany, so it's 4:30 around-ish.
What is it like living in Germany? I hear it's pretty hip, in Berlin and all that. I've never been to that part of the world.
Yeah, Berlin's fantastic. I think out of all the cities in Germany, at least the ones that I've been to, it's the most cosmopolitan.
Mm,
So I feel like I fit in here. It's very welcoming to all kinds of
okay.
people, all kinds of vibes. So I think, well, no, I know. Yeah, Berlin is just, it's artsy, it's beautiful.
Well, okay, so Berlin, um, I get that. So it's a melting pot. It's like the mecca of all. Is there diversity there? There's a lot of diversity.
Well, a lot is relative. I think if you
Right,
compare it to the rest of the country, it's a lot, but you couldn't compare it with London, for example. It's
right,
nowhere.
right. So how'd you end up there in Germany?
I married a German, 12.
That's the easiest way.
Yeah. I married a German and he wanted to come back. So we lived in South Africa before we came here. And he wanted to come back and I wanted to be with him. So I came back with him.
Well, good.
Yeah.
What was it like living in South Africa?
South Africa was hard for me. I found, although I was born in Kenya, I have a Kenyan passport. I know what it means to live in Africa. I found South Africa, that was in 2003, not too far out of its own racial history. And I found that challenging. I found the levels of corruption in South Africa quite scary, the lack of security. This
And I say this with love, but you're fair skinned. You're not the dark, kinky haired assumption that people have of Africans. So,
Yeah,
you're more what we call in the United States mulatto.
I'm actually Indian.
Oh, okay.
That's my heritage. And we were brought to Kenya, as a result of colonialism. So
Mm,
I'm not, yeah.
yeah. Well, that can be a culture shock. But you are a woman that is very layered and very textured, and you have been able to overcome and adapt and migrate and assimilate to wherever you have been. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Because a lot of people, wouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah,
They start
absolutely.
they start crying.
Absolutely. Well, I have cried, but no,
Yeah.
you're right. You're right.
Tell us a little bit about you and how you show up in the world.
How do I show up in the world? That's a fantastic question. I'd say I show up in the world as me. However, I am cautious of how or where I show up as me. So, back to the whole diversity thing, being a brown girl, for example, in a predominantly white country, that can also be racist. I need to be careful about that. But
When
I
you say
think,
careful,
yeah,
okay, when you say careful, because I'm a brown
yeah,
girl too, uh, is that I'm going to throw out some scenarios, maybe confrontations that you get in, maybe speaking up for yourself, maybe, maybe standing out in a crowd and, being, the once over. What kind of things do you have to be cautious of? I mean, people blatantly rude? And I don't like to use the word racist because in my opinion only,
Mhm.
everybody's got a tinge of racism.
Yeah, and I get that absolutely.
You'd be disingenuous if you didn't say we're
Mm,
racist against our own. There's colorism among our own. You know,
absolutely,
the darker dark or the lighter light or the wavier hair versus the kinkier hair. So there is racism even inbred within us.
absolutely,
So what
absolutely.
kind of things are you, cautious about that you could possibly be subjected to?
I think it's this sense of, because I am in the minority,
Mhm.
I, you know, simple example, going into the supermarket and doing something wrong, so not in the traditional way that a German might do it, and being told, where I come from, we don't do it like that. And so these microaggressions, and I tend to be quite, I use my voice, and sometimes, so when I say I show up as me, I also have to recognize there are times where I would like to use my voice, but I need to, for my sanity, take a step back and be able
Absolutely.
to ignore and just walk ahead and say, okay, this is not my thing. Um, and yeah,
It's
so
how you respond.
absolutely,
When I woke up, I turned 60 a couple months ago. And when I woke up, I had an epiphany. I said, April, you are not guaranteed another 60 years.
yeah,
And so
absolutely,
now what I have to do is edit and filter
yeah,
and be cautious.
yeah,
Is their ignorance? Because what they're doing is they're trying to light a fire up under your butt. They're trying to get you engaged.
yeah,
And
and
then, right, and then disrespect you publicly or film you with their phone or, have you arrested. I've seen some ugly things happen. So
yeah,
again, but it's hard. But you
yeah,
know what? Also illuminating your beauty because you know what? They're jealous.
yeah,
Oh yeah.
yeah. It
Out, people lay out in the sun and look like, a piece of toast when they get out, but they don't want to identify with, with the darker skin. Do you have children?
I do. I have one daughter.
How old is
Yeah.
she?
She's 6. She's just
Oh,
6.
okay. So she's still young.
She's still young.
She's
Yeah.
still young. But you know what? There's a lot of beauty that you're going to be able to share with her. Your Indian culture, your being living in Africa, being in
Absolutely.
Germany, and just allowing her to be who she is. Because by the time she gets 14 or 15, these generation Y and Z, they care nothing about that conversation.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the hope, right? That's the hope, that this conversation is, to a certain degree, in the intensity that it exists at the moment, for example, for me, is dying out. My daughter and her generation, they have access to a new conversation. And I feel proud that I can give that to her too, from my own diversity, where I've lived, what I've seen, that I can instill a new conversation that she can carry on, where it doesn't have to be, for her and the people that come after her, like it was for my grandma or for my
Well,
mom.
and that's what I was just getting ready to say. That epigenetic trauma is embedded in us and it
Yeah,
goes from generation to generation to generation. And so, what we have to do is pump the brakes on that and allow her to be who she is because it's not just colorism, anymore. There's a whole different set of circumstances that these kids are going through now with this
absolutely.
technological age. So,
Yeah,
again, we have to continue to evolve as they evolve. So
yeah,
speaking about evolving. Tell me a little bit more about you. So you've moved to different countries and now you're settled there in Germany. What are you doing?
I am, so a couple of years ago, after I had my daughter, I started writing poetry. Um, and that took that took 2 years, 3 years, and then I published this book. And then this year I knew I wanted to come back into coaching. And I'm often driven by this sort of what I call this sense of moreness inside of me. It's like, oh, I can feel something is calling me. And so I set myself up with a mentor who I've been working with, and I've now launched the next iteration of my coaching business, which is the Transformational Book Coaching. And that's kind of where I'm at. So it's a new beginning, creating, or not even creating, I've created, but delivering my body of work, that I've been working on for the last, consciously and unconsciously, for the last 10 years. So,
Wow,
yeah, yeah.
that's great.
Really
What do
cool.
you mean by transformational coaching? Because let's get a little deep here. I live here in San Diego, California, and I know that you're probably aware of who Deepak Chopra is.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, Dr. Chopra was on KPBS
Hmm.
and he was talking about the state of consciousness,
Right.
where so many people are still stuck in a mindset mentality, but they have not transformed and elevated to the next level and resonated to that point of consciousness. Because you need to be awakened, brains. You need to know what's going on. You need to spark your ingenuity. You need to be excited by innovation. You need to delve into your imagination for the next level of elevation and resonation into the world. Am I talking, poet?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And they don't get it. It's like, okay, your frontal lobe is already programmed
Yeah.
with judgments and ideas and misconceptions, but also your practices, your fears, your safeguards, that's already done.
Yeah.
But the other 85% of your subconscious mind, you haven't even met yet.
Absolutely.
So tell us a little bit about this transformational work that you're doing. How are you transferring people from one pedestal to the next?
The first thing I'll say is I'm not doing it.
Mm,
I think when I speak about transformational coaching, a lot of that has to do with the space that is being created. So, my belief when it comes to coaching, first, I'll make the distinction between transformational coaching and transactional coaching. Now, transactional coaching is just that mind place that you were talking about. So, we're setting goals, we're living from what we already know, we're doing what society sort of expects us to, which we haven't really questioned. Transformational for me is working with energy, and it's really about creating a space where the energy between you and I, or me and my coachee, and then the energy of transformation is all coming in to this space and informing the conversation. It's informing what wants to happen. It's informing how the new actions that person can take. So for me, that's coming from an elevated state of being rather than just I'm in the matrix and in a very 3D reality.
right. Right. I'm in the vortex. I'm trying to get through the hole,
Yeah, exactly.
but I've gained weight and I'm stuck. I can't get there. So, what do you say to the person that's stuck?
I don't think we're stuck. I think the mind can get stuck in a loop, but I think if we're able, there is a story going on that we've latched onto that we believe we're stuck. But if we can pull out of that story, and I think that's what a good coach does, it helps you identify what is that story and then helps you pull out of that story. And I think when we can pull out of that story, that's when we start seeing, oh, wow, there's this possibility, there's that possibility. I'm walking in the unknown. I can create anything. I'm mega, I am meta. And it's just,
That,
this
that's
is,
it. It's about being the meta human.
yeah, yeah,
You know,
yeah.
It
And
is,
that's like Oprah. Exactly.
and
Exactly
we
that.
may not, again, we may not actually see it in this current meat suit that we're in,
Yeah.
but energy and matter never destroy, they just transform,
Absolutely.
you know?
Yeah.
So it's deep, brains. And so when we talk about transformation, we're not trying to turn you into a frog.
I
We're
love
trying
that.
exactly, we're trying to give you wings so that you can fly. It is not in contradiction to what your religious doctrine is. It's just another set of great gifts and tools that you will need. It's like a car. You have a car, but it does you no good if you don't have brakes and tires. There's things that you have to put in place to keep this motor running, to keep it churning. Who motivates you?
Um, at the moment, my daughter, and I know that sounds incredibly cliche, but I separated from her father a couple of years ago. And one of the things that I want her to know is that it's absolutely possible for a woman to not necessarily be in a relationship and still be successful. Um, that for me is huge. I come from a culture where women traditionally have been dependent on their men, and that's not a bad thing. But I want her to know that there's other possibilities. It doesn't have to be the only way. So she motivates me. When I look at the business that I'm creating now as well, there's a lot of having her in the forefront when I'm making decisions, when I'm not showing up and thinking, okay, how's this for being a role model? And yeah, she's huge for me at the moment.
So what are you pouring into her young mind? I know, again, the conversation is very superficial because you're just trying to lay the groundwork.
Yeah,
But she looks at you,
yeah,
and her father is German, white German, correct?
German, yeah.
Is she more fair skinned?
Very. She presents as white.
Yeah. Okay. So here we go. You know, do people look at her sometime and think you're the nanny? I mean, and it
This isn't a
happens.
joke.
I
That's happened.
know. I went with my friend to China, and I rock a big afro, right? And he thought I was gonna carry the bags.
Oh God, yeah.
It's just an assumption. But for her to be careful, I mean, for her to be confronted with that, it's very confusing because you're mommy no matter what. I mean, you could be, green with two antennas and you're still mommy.
Yeah.
But then when she goes with daddy in that world, it's a totally different not conversation, but a way of being received.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so to have that very fundamental conversation with her, how do you calm her?
I think initially it was about, I've actually written a poem about this. I don't have it here, but I started recognizing that she started recognizing my skin. Like it hadn't been a thing. And then suddenly she was like, whoa, mommy, how come you're darker than me? And so the initial conversation was explaining biology, really, and this is how it works. Um, and then I've had to, and it's something ongoing. It's going through culture, talking about race, talking about all. It's so multi. It's not a single sentence. It's a multi-layered, ongoing exploration.
Ongoing conversation,
Yeah,
absolutely. And that's what people say. It's like the sex talk. They think they
yeah,
have it one time and it's over. This is a dialogue.
yeah.
This is
And
about
it's a dialogue between us where it's I don't have the answers. I have a little bit of knowledge and my experience and what I can tell her. But there's also the need and the desire for us both to be curious and go, okay, how is this affecting you? What does this mean? What does this mean for your friends? How does she feel when I'm around? And so it really is this constant movement between us and
does
never
she have
let
an opportunity to visit, your parents in India or
Kenya. So we all live in
in
Kenya.
Kenya? I'm sorry, in Kenya.
Yeah, that's no problem. We haven't been since the pandemic, but before that, we were there every second year, and we plan to go back next year. But she's in touch with my mum. With
Well, I mean, good. and it will become second nature to her. And she will realize the beauty and the richness that she has of her heritage, and how she's just, a part of a big melting pot of this thing called the world. And it can just really be the best thing. And I'm unique and I'm beautiful and I'm special. And, when I get in the sun, I do have the melanin in my skin. I will be brown too.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So let's take it to the next level. You are a poet and you know it. How did poetry find you? Let me ask you that.
I was tired. It was 2018, and my daughter was 2. I was in that early mum stage. I was frustrated. I had, on the one side, this ambition to move my coaching business forward, and on the other hand, being a mum, not having support. And I was tired, and I wrote down a question. And the question, it was one of those existential ones, and it was like, who are you in your wonder? And I sat with that inquiry in my meditation. And then over 2 years, this like poems just kept coming through me. And so that's, for me, it's been a hugely spiritual journey, the writing of poetry, and feeling, we were talking about energy, feeling the energy of what wanted to be written through me. And so that's how I got into poetry. There was nothing academic, or, I never had this desire to be a poet. I'd always had a desire to write a book. But poetry was, it was something that just arrived in my lap. And yeah.
Well, can we cuddle up in your lap and you read to us? We want to hear a little bit about the book, and you're going to read us an excerpt.
Yeah, I can do that. So the book is called, I'm not sure if you can see that.
Let's see, pull it back. Yep, there it is. Okay, perfect.
Bloom in Your Own Time, a collection of poetry for the emerging woman. And I was tuning in before we started to see which poem I would read. So I'm just it's called Become Luminous, You Must. Get to know how wondrous you are. Please, astound yourself, freak out, think you're a little crazy. Be big, allow yourself to expand. A diminished being has helped no one, ever. Take every thought that doesn't serve you away, or choose to let them stay, but always come back to your wonder, because that's the game you were meant to play. Brag a bit, it's okay, even safe. The world can handle you, your bigness. It's only you who needs to learn to get out of your own way. Shine, my darling, collapse stars if need be, bring forth new reality. But above all, trust. The most you can do is become luminous. You must.
Oh, that's heavy. And I totally understand, and I get what you're saying. So, we do the hand claps and finger snaps here. Do you have speakeasies there in Germany?
We do. We spoke about this already. I'm still looking for one in English.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. That's right. We did talk about it in the green room. Because your voice and your voice inflection is so powerful. Have you done your poems audibly?
I have, but not as a book. And I think that might be one of the next projects.
Just as an experience. You don't have to do the full-on book, but just, because it's gravitating. I'm going to read a poem because I'm a poem too. Okay.
Yeah.
And I like to do these little bookmarks. So this one's called Bedtime. Unwind between these flannel sheets. Surprise. A chocolate peppermint treat laid on my pillow warms my mouth. Oh, how sweet. He's asleep. I grab my book, lay down to retreat. A special place, quiet and unique. At my peak, I'm captivated by every word the author speaks. I'm at the end. I feel complete. I turn to close my eyes, sweet slumber, warmed by body heat. Rub my back, rock me to sleep.
Oh, beautiful. I love that.
I just
Isn't
like
poetry amazing?
Poetry is amazing, and there's so many different types. There's rhyming, there's haiku, there's, almost short stories. But what it is the interpretation of maybe not even so much the poet, but the people that receive it. Because don't you go places or you read and people get a different meaning and you're going, wow, I didn't think that I had included that in this message.
Yeah, I just had an experience this week. A girl wrote to me that I know, and she said she'd been guided to buy my book, and we've just met each other. And she was holding a writing session, and she'd been guided to buy my book, and she opened the page, and the poem that she landed on was the one that she felt that she was going to use in this writing session. And I heard her today speak the poem out and provide her interpretation. And I was thinking, wow, okay, when I wrote that was a personal journey for me. I was speaking about, what had gone on in my own life. And then hearing someone else read it and then provide their understanding through their filter. It's incredible. But again, for me, poetry isn't the words, it's the energy. It's what lives behind those words before we go into the whole meaning making.
Absolutely.
Me, yeah.
And I like how you say that, meaning making, because you are basing upon your life experience, your interpretation, your feelings, your emotions, our prejudice, our judgment. But we are, we are a part of that. So what would you tell a woman that's in a quandary right now? She's just ready to throw up her hands. I am in a relationship that is not serving me. I am a single parent. For the most part, I feel lost. I don't feel like I'm worthy. I'm not good enough. But I want to transform. I want to get out. I want to break out of this turtle shell. What do you say to her?
I'd ask her firstly to go and buy my book because
perfect.
But I would say that she's, from the sounds of it, it sounds like something new is wanting to emerge from her own being. That she's evolving. That all of those endings, the relationship, and all of that is, those aren't bad things. They're things that no longer serve, and it's time to step into whatever is calling her next. And it would be to do that inquiry. What is calling you? What do you want? What do you really, really want? Not just on the surface. Like, what is it in you that you want? And go from there.
Yeah. So many people don't know what they want.
No, but we're not told.
No, and I think that, again, if you absolutely knew what you wanted, you would be in that mindset. You would not be moving towards that meta-human because you stopped the creativity. You said, oh, okay, I'm satisfied. I've got the house, I've got the car, I've got the, the looks and the clothes and all that. What else? What else is going to be there to make me happy? What else is going to have me on this happiness high, instead of learning to be content and learning to have peace within yourself and love yourself for wherever you are, and even love yourself through the circumstances, because the things that don't kill us are our best teachers. Wouldn't you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think there's purpose in everything.
Absolutely.
I think there's purpose in everything. We don't. And if we can really orientate to life as being 100% purposeful, I think it helps us, the suffering is still suffering, but it's just not as hard sometimes.
Do you work with men also, or just strictly with women, mostly, primarily women?
I have worked with men. I don't have a preference, to be honest. I'm, if someone feels drawn to work with me and we're a fit, I would.
And because so many men these days are really reaching out to female coaches that who've designed their programs pretty much for the female psyche. I think they want to feel someone with empathy.
Yeah.
They want to get through the mommy issues.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's
they want to feel. I think
want to feel.
Yeah. The masculine paradigm hasn't allowed men to feel, which is the repercussions of that is huge.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So many people are struggling with the imposter syndrome.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
They look at themselves and they're pretending to be something that they truly are not. And then when they work with someone like you and pull back the layers and find out who it is that they are truly innately designed to be, it's that aha moment.
Yeah.
Tell me about a breakthrough or an aha moment that you've had with one of your clients.
My last, so this is the one. She was going through all of these, what she called, I think it was an awakening. I don't like that word, but I'll use it for lack of a better one. Or it was a re-emergence or an emergence, and she was going through this, but she was extremely, extremely scared. And, she started to be able to see energy, and she was having lots of metaphysical experiences. And I think for me, but she was so afraid she couldn't function. And so this wasn't an aha moment as much as it was a moment where she could actually step into that power that, was coming for her, and hold it. And once she could hold it, life just, it took off for her. So that for me was one of the biggest wows, just being able to deal with this hugely transformational moment in someone's life and have them come out the other side.
Right. And be able to hold space with her.
Yeah.
So there's, and it's a lot. That's a lot of heavy lifting. What do you do to balance yourself and keep yourself in alignment? And who feeds you? Who keeps your spirit?
It's very simple. I live near a forest and I absolutely love being in nature. So there's that. There's my dog, who I'm a very quiet, introvert kind of person. I like to be by myself. And then I have a few really, really amazing friends. And they, being able to just be with them outside of the work and, the other stuff, that for me is key.
That's huge. That's huge. Well, please tell my brains how to get a copy of your book, and any current offerings that you may have. Brains, there's nothing better than working with, and I say this because it's me, an artsy person. Because what we do is we don't look at the surface. We go deep from the beginning. We listen to your voice inflection. We can almost see how your heart beats. What kind of smells and sights and sounds that you like, because what we want to do is we want to spark that creativity. So working with an artsy person as a coach is an extra value add, because they're going to help you find, maybe the painter in you, maybe the musician in you, maybe the baker in you, maybe you make good cookies. But what they're going to do is they're going to pull that out. And so you should please tell us how you're going to pull it out, and what your ideal client is and how to get in contact with you.
Okay, so first, my book is available on Amazon.
Pull it up again so we can see it.
Bloom in Your Own Time.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so that's available on Amazon. And working with an artsy person. So what I do is I take out the writer in you. So I work with what I call visionary creatives, and they're people who are led by their soul. They're led by something deeper, and they have a message to share, and I help them put that message into a book. And for me, that's, putting a message into a book. There's two sides to it. It's on the one hand the energetics, and then on the other hand the practical side. So if it was just about practical, everyone would be putting their message in a book. It would be easy. You can download that stuff on the internet for $5 but we work with the person as well, or I work with the person, so that the book that they're actually creating is the one that comes from deep and not the surface. Yeah.
Right. And that takes a lot of work, because she got to get to know you.
Yeah.
What?
And the person's got to get to know themselves. I think a lot of the time we think we want to say something, and then we get deeper and go, there's actually something beyond that I want to say that I'm not letting myself say.
Or, I better not say that.
Or I better not say that. Absolutely.
That's true. So tell my brains how to get in contact with you, your website. And
my website is ushmidosaja.com. It's currently under renovation, but if you sign up for the newsletter, you'll get the latest offer that's coming out in January next year. It's a program called Spellbound. And that's where we're at.
Well, thank you so much, Ushmi, for being here with me and my brains on the edge. You are a beautiful soul. I can hear it, I can see it, I can feel it. And, I am glad that you have been able to go through the experiences and shine on the other side. It has really turned you into the woman that you are today. And that's a radiant, beautiful light.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Brains, I need you to get on it. Go and purchase her book, number one. It's just, when's the last time you really had a book that you could just take your time and read? You don't have to flip through every page. Take a little bit day by day, have some tea, have some scones, but just get into it. And then close the book and close your eyes and get into yourself and realize your creativity. Maybe there's a book inside of you that she can help you write. So I need you to love, like, and share here on the edge. Go and subscribe to the YouTube channel, the Blog Talk Radio. We're here. We've got everything from soup to nuts. Okay. Thank you so much, Ushmi. You are the best.
Bye.
Bye, brains.